Welcome back to Unlimited Capital on the Best Ever CRE Network. I'm your host, Richard McGirr, and today I want to talk to you about something that's killing more deals than bad markets, bad sponsors, and bad timing combined. If you're working really hard but feel stuck, like you're doing everything right, but you're having trouble collecting checks, this is probably why. My company, along with my partner, Chris Lopez, we've raised over $60 million in real estate equity capital for deals over the past 3 or 4 years. We've closed deals with over 200 individual investors, and I've also personally trained dozens of other fund managers who've gone on to raise millions themselves. So when I tell you what's killing deals, it's not a theory. It's from watching hundreds of capital raisers succeed and fail, including myself. And the number one killer, the build trap. Let me explain. The build trap is when you spend all your time building the perfect system, making the perfect marketing funnel, the perfect CRM setup, instead of actually talking to investors and closing deals. It's when you convince yourself that everything you need is to be ready with like the perfect pitch. I need the perfect slide deck. Oh, my LinkedIn isn't optimized, or I need to record this like 10 times because I don't just quite have it right, instead of just calling people. And here's the thing, building feels really good. Really, really good. You feel really productive. Like you create a new automation in your CRM. You're messing with your onboarding sequence, saying like, oh, I can A/B test this, or why don't I try this headline? But the fact of the matter is, a lot of the time, especially for those who are just getting started, this is actually just procrastination. So I just got off a call with one of my fund managers. Let's call him Mike. He's a really good guy, really smart, been very successful in real estate forever. I know he owns millions of dollars in properties, and he's been a successful broker his entire career. And he's just getting into becoming a fund-to-fund manager as his next act, which is, a business model that I think is a great fit for former brokers or people that are brokers in real estate. So here's the thing. I get on the call. We're 2 months into a 3-month capital raise. And I say, hey, John, what have you been up to? Got a month left. We need to start, getting commits in and closing wires. And he's like, Richard, what I've been doing is I'm working on my CRM. I've got, 7,000 contacts to sort through. My social media guy says that I've got to do like these 15 things for him. And I was like, okay, that's great. How many commits do you have? How many prospects are you talking to right now? Like, what's your pipeline looking like? Silence. I was like, Mike, how long have we been raising for this deal? 2 months. Okay. Have you talked to anyone about this deal? Oh, yeah. I talked to, let's call her Patty, and she's interested for $100,000. Yeah, it's the only person I talked to about the deal. And I was like, wait a minute. So for the past 2 months, you've been telling me about this social media and your CRM, and, I'm getting ready and I'm getting ready. And in 2 months, talk to one person, and that one person wants to invest $100,000, but you've only talked to one. Yeah, because I'm just not ready. I'm just, I've never really done marketing before. I've always done sales, and like this is a new thing for me, and I really want to do it right. And I was like, listen, Mike, making a perfect CRM, there's no such thing. Like there CRMs, and I used to be a CRM consultant. My largest CRM project was over $1 million. I've been designing business processes and making everything perfect. Like I did that in my previous career. I know that it feels good. But it doesn't close deals. Like we've been doing this for 2 months and you've only talked to one person. Well, yeah, because my slide deck's not ready. I was like, but we gave you a slide deck. There's a webinar. You can just send people the webinar and like show the slide deck. Yeah. Maybe you're right. And then, here's the thing. I can really empathize to this situation. I mean, it's the craftsman's curse. Like I said, I come from a software design background. I used to design really big, beautiful pieces of software. I used to design enterprise systems for, Fortune 500 companies, like projects that were, 10 million plus, teams of 80s. Running incredibly important, sophisticated processes for large companies. And let me tell you, that work is a lot of fun. I love doing that work. I think process design is great. I really love thinking hard about something and, sitting there and whittling. Uh, Also, I've done a lot of CRM work, and CRMs are extremely important. There's no doubt about it. But the fact of the matter is, CRMs and your marketing and processes and everything is an endless project. Like, there is no such thing as a perfect CRM. There is no such thing as a perfect onboarding flow. There is no such thing as perfect branding. You can always invest more. You know, by definition, there are an infinite amount of things you can do to make your branding better, your marketing better, your CRM better, except we do not have the luxury of infinite time and money. Like, no one does. It's a constraint of the universe. And it's a constraint of any business, especially, if you're a fund manager, team of one, and there are a lot of successful team of one fund managers. But the thing is, like, building workflows and polishing your CRM and cleaning your list and everything like that does not close checks. Like, none of those things close checks. What closes checks is two things: sending emails, telling people about your deals, and calling the people who click those emails or calling people in your network. That is what actually closes checks. So what this really is about is a 95-5 rule of value creation. This is like the power law. They use it a lot in technology, or Pareto principle, 80-20. I actually think that it's more like 95-5. I prefer the 95-5 to 80-20 because I really think that there's an incredibly small amount of things that move the needle in any business, no matter what you're doing, whether it's capital raising or any other type of entrepreneurship or sales and marketing, is that there's probably one thing driving all the results, and everything around it, I'm not going to say fluff to be overly dismissive, but that these things don't actually bring money in. Like, when I'm recording this podcast, I could spend so much time making a podcast checklist and making sure everything is great. Or I can just record episodes. And that at the end of the day, what matters is me recording episodes. So here's what I told them. I was like, I've been a CRM consultant. I know your needs because I've known you for 2 months. I've worked with a lot of small businesses and single operators. You need to tell your CRM consultant and yourself that by the end of next week, you're going to send one email, because that's all that really matters. Like, the purpose of the CRM, like, he was on Campaign, for example. I use Campaign as well. Great CRM, not that complicated. Load your list in, send one email. If that CRM is not sending emails, it's not doing any good. This is another, I'll kind of digress into project management and product development. If features that are being worked on and are not released to the public, or tools that are being built but are not being put into use, that's something called WIP, or work in progress. It is bad. Work in progress is something that you should have as little of as possible, because what that is invested time and capital that is not making a return. And so when you're approaching any marketing, any CRM project, any capital raise, spending 2 months or a month in the workshop getting ready to sell a deal is not doing any good, because now you're 2 months behind on a capital raise, when what should you have been doing? You should have been calling your network. You should have been having conversations with people. You should have been shopping the deal. And here's the thing: when you're shopping the deal and having these conversations, that's actually what's going to make your sales and marketing better, because you're able to try out different ways of presenting the deal. What are people objecting to? So that, if they're like, oh, I'm really concerned about this operator, then what's his track record? Then you need to spend more time talking about the person's track record or explaining why they're a perfect fit for the project. You only learn those things when you actually go live. And here's the other problem with lots of buildup. When you spend a lot of time building and then releasing something, what you're doing is actually piling up assumptions. Is you're building, I have a guy I used to work with, which called it like the crystal palace in your head, where you're just designing and designing, except the thing is that it's only in your head, it's not in reality. And so you are making assumptions of like, oh, I think you work on like 30 subject lines without actually trying them on anyone, or like 30 ways to explain the deal. And the thing is, you're just at a certain point chasing your tail and going in circles and inventing all these things in your head without actually, the way you're going to find out which subject line is the best or the best way to explain a deal is to just try different variations on the pitch on people. And here's the other thing that doing that is going to do is it's actually going to get investor commitments, which is what you were trying to do in the first place. I mean, at the end of the day, your job as a fund manager or as a capital raiser in your organization or for your own projects is to raise money. It is like your job is not writing emails. Your job is raising money. Your job is not setting up your CRM. Your job is raising money, period. You know? So here's what I told him. I said, tell your CRM guy, we need to send an email next week, make it about this deal, and then show me how to go find a list of everyone who clicked a link in the email to the deal room. He already has a deal room. He's already got a slide deck. And like, you don't have to have a deal room. This could be any of your collateral. What you do is you write the deal announcement email, insert links into it. So like, here's a little quick video presentation I did, or here's a slide deck, or here's a link to, almost anything, but you got to have links. And the purpose of those links is that any modern CRM or email marketing platform should be able to give you a report of exactly who clicked which links. And then what do you do with that list? That's your call list. That's it. I know a very successful fund manager. Her name is Sarah Miskelly. She's also a former agent. She was a real estate agent out in Canada and is now an extremely successful solo fundraiser. We worked with her on a project a few years back, earlier this year. And she was one of our most successful people. And so we interviewed her, because I always am studying this. Like, capital raising is something that I'm like totally obsessed with. And I take a very scientific approach to. And so when someone succeeds, I want to know how and why. And so we sat her down. We were at a conference and we both happened to be there. And I said, hey, can you give me 20 minutes so I can ask you about what you did? And I said, how did you raise all this money? Because you came into it late. And then she raised $800,000 as a fund of funds manager in about 20 days, which is really fast. And I said, what do you do? And she's like, I post on LinkedIn, I send emails in my CRM, and I call the people who click the links. And then I convince them to invest in my deal because she's got great deals. She knows a lot about real estate. She's been in real estate her whole life. Another one of those people, her family's in real estate. And like, that was it. And in fact, I learned a lot from that because I would say, given my background in IT consulting and me as an ops guy, like between Chris, my partner, and I'm the integrator. I'm the operator. I love building systems, and I love software, legitimately. And I include CRM. So CRM is a type of software. I think it's a great type of software. It's one of my favorite types of software. And I was just like, wow, we're really overthinking a lot of stuff. I mean, like this year, in the past 12 months, we've raised $15 million. I mean, it's not like we're slouches or anything like that, but that I was like, wow, we're doing way too much. Like, we are focused on way too much. At the end of the day, we need to be sending emails. We need to be seeing who clicked those emails. And then we need to have our sales team call them, or we call them if they're a VIP, or we have a very good relationship with them. Like, that is it. Like, that's the 95 to this business. I say this over and over again to the fund managers that I train. I say, this business is very simple. It is finding deals. It is sending emails. It is calling people. And it is creating content or webinars or some other way of presenting a deal. Like, those are the four things. Like, that's it. But of all of those, 60% of your organizational effort or your own time, if you're a single operator, should be like making calls. 60 to 80% of your time should be making calls and following up with people. And then you're building all the other, side stuff of doing better marketing and, perfecting your follow-up flows and working on decks and everything else like that. That should be probably more like 25% of your time and effort, no more than 40. And that your main job is just making calls, especially if you're new, because what this is procrastination, which is driven by, anxiety, imposter syndrome, all these other things. They just come from, you think that the way you're going to get over that is by preparing more or building more. Like, this is very common. Like, this does not make you a bad person. We do it too. In fact, we have to continuously remind ourselves that like this job and this business is actually extremely simple, and that we just have to focus on getting more leads, calling those leads, and closing those leads. Like, that's the business that we're in. So a good phrase from my IT consulting days, or a good framework that we used to use, is called the crawl, walk, run principle. I think that this is an excellent way to approach any new thing that you're trying to do, whether that's a project or a technique or a new social media channel or posting on LinkedIn, is crawl, walk, run. And what that means is this is like activity and outcome based. And what it's about is using the tool or doing the new thing in a simple way and doing that as soon as possible. That's the crawl phase. So in John's case, this was, I just want you to send one email. Like, get your people loaded in. Because I talked to him, I said, like, so you've been working with your social media guy for 2 months. Like, are you posting? No. Have you sent any emails? No. Okay, that's a problem. We've been planning, you know? So crawl, send one email, have a very simple deliverable. Like, this is something that it's a smart goal. You know, it's a specific goal. It's measurable. It's sending one email. Did you send it or not? It's definitely achievable. And then those are the main 3 parts. Sorry, I don't remember the R and the T. It doesn't matter that much for the purposes of this conversation. Then what could he do to walk? So to walk, maybe he could send one email a week and then check the call list the day after the email and call these people. Or maybe create an email drip, like a basic email drip, so that if you, like, this could be anytime someone signs up for my CRM, I have a 10 or 14 email flow that they start getting sent, which tells them about me, tells them about my story, tells them about how I talk about real estate. These types of drips and stuff, by the way, are going to be in our Funds of Funds course on the Best Ever CRE network. That's going to be coming out in about a month or so. I'm really excited. I'm working on that in the background really hard with Chris. We'll be talking about how all to do this, but you know, part of this framework, crawl, walk, run, any drip is better than the perfect drip. I'll say that again. Any drip is better than the perfect drip. Sending any email is better than having a CRM, which a lot of people have, which is metaphorically collecting dust. Because, you know, of course, a piece of software on the internet can't collect dust. So just start using your tools. Just start posting on LinkedIn, 1 post a week. Like, here's another thing about how you actually get good. The way you get good is by doing something enough times that you're no longer bad at it. I mean, where I originally heard that phrase, they use more colorful language. But like, the way you get good at things and the way you make things good is by putting them out in the world and doing them and then getting feedback and then refining them iteratively. You know, that's another thing. I'm a big fan of doing very small, high leverage projects. And I'll tell another story here. I only allow myself to work on our CRM. We use Salesforce.com on the weekends. And do you want to know why? Is because during the week, I have much more important work to do. And that the work that I'm doing on Salesforce on the weekends is essentially me playing around. I mean, it's not, okay, that makes it seem really small. Like, I do really important changes in the system. But at the end of the day, like, those systems, the ROI payback is like marginal improvements of 5%. Like, this weekend, I wrote a rule saying that close date, I mean, I wrote a validation rule in the system saying close dates can't be in the future if you move to close one. And that this is just a small thing that'll improve our data quality, because we like to put an estimated close date of when we think, you know, someone is going to invest. This helps us forecast, you know, pipeline and let us know if our pipeline is thin, then we need to do more marketing, like all that kinds of stuff. The having an accurate close date is important. But the problem is if I put a close date that's, you know, 20 days in the future, but it ends up closing tomorrow and I mark it closed one, the problem is that close date will be incorrect. It's going to be in the future. So I just wrote a little simple rule saying it should be today. This is like a tiny little improvement. Is it important? Yes, because high quality data is very important to our operation. You know, we have a fairly large list. We're good with data. I really like dashboards. We also use these in our fund administration. You know, having clean data is really important to us. But at the end of the day, clean data does not actually close that many more checks, and then our main job is closing more investors. And so that's why I only allow myself to work on Salesforce on the weekend. I love working on Salesforce. It's one of my favorite things, like is making our CRM better and all these things I could do. You know, I write big, long, they're called requirements lists. I write big descriptions of things that I want to build, you know, but most of that just, I say, okay, that's nice. I store that document somewhere, and then probably I'm not going to build most of it because I know that the amount of effort that I would put into building that versus another activity that either gets us more leads or throwing another investor event, or all these very high leverage things that take the same amount of time of effort that I could be putting into just making Salesforce better. Like that stuff is a lot more high leverage, and those are things that actually generate business and generate more investments for us, is doing investor events, getting more leads, working on media partnerships so that we can get like more exposure, having sales training with our reps, writing and sending emails. Like we send at least 3 emails a week. I'm a believer in sending more emails rather than less. We'll talk about that on another call, or we'll talk about that on another podcast. But I'm a fan of unsubscribe, buy or die. Not to take it too extreme, but that if someone wants to unsubscribe from you, like they're not a buyer. So yeah, send more emails. And then call the people who click the links in those emails. I will say that one more time. Like that is 90% of this business is doing that. So my challenge to kind of like take this home here is that if you're a capital raiser, or if you're an aspiring capital raiser, best ever listeners, and that you feel like you've been working so hard and for some reason you're just like not getting investments, then I think you should take a look at how you've been spending your time. And I'm willing to bet you're doing a lot of activities that, like, I'm not going to belittle by saying feel like work, because look, doing like polishing your LinkedIn page is work. It's just that what you really need to be doing is like making more calls. You need to be making more calls or posting more on LinkedIn, commenting on other people's stuff, sending connection requests, messaging the people who connect with you on LinkedIn, like trying to actually sell people, because that is the goal here. And I'm going to, obviously there's more to LinkedIn than just adding people on LinkedIn and then sending them random messages. I'm clearly not implying that. But yeah, like focus on the sales. Like sales is this job. Marketing is very important. Getting more leads is very important. But at the end of the day, the main job here is having conversations with investors. And whether that's building relationships with them, whether that's telling them about your deals, whether it's just having a check-in with them and seeing like how their life is going, and finding a way to work that into conversation of saying, oh, I've got a deal coming up, could it be a good fit? Do you know anyone else? Asking for referrals, stuff like that. That is where the money is made, is like a few simple activities. Say it again: sending emails, making content, and calling people. That is how you raise capital. It's 3 things. So thank you, everyone. That's it for today's episode of Unlimited Capital. If you're Mike listening to this, I think that you represent the same position that a lot of people are in, especially new entrepreneurs and new business owners. Stop building, start selling, pick up the phone. Like call your Patty, call your list. People are waiting. This happens every time I talk to people. It gets to a point where I have to be emphatic and say, you need to call a certain number of people. And then every time I come back next week and I say, how do those calls go? People are legitimately surprised of like, wow, people are actually really interested in this. Like a lot of people want to hear more about this deal. But if I don't force people to make a certain number of calls a day or send a certain number of messages a week, they don't do that. And then guess what? Then they don't have leads. Then they don't have opportunities. Then they're like, oh, I talked to one person in the past 2 months. Like, so, talk to more people about your stuff. More people need to know about your stuff. That is the game here. And again, if you want to learn the exact playbook that we use and that we use to help other fund managers raise for their deals, keep a lookout for our fund of funds chorus coming soon on Best Ever CRE. I'm really excited about that. Chris is really excited about that. I'm incredibly happy to be working with Best Ever here to release that program and bring it to as many people as possible. So I'm Richard McGirr, and I'll see you next week on Unlimited Capital on the Best Ever CRE network every Monday.